History books love to skip the uncomfortable parts. Today we are reading exactly those parts. These are the top 10 most brutal punishments in human history, and by the time we reach number 1, the word brutal will feel completely inadequate. We're counting down from 10 to 1 and every single entry gets worse. So let's not waste any time. Starting with a place so terrifying, even the most hardened criminals in medieval London would confess to any crime just to avoid it. Number 10. Deep beneath the Tower of London. During medieval times, there was a dungeon unlike any other. It wasn't built to lock people away. It was built with one very specific design feature. It sat directly below the waterline of the River Thames. When the river tide rose, thousands of rats living along the riverbed were flushed from their homes with only one escape route available: straight into the dungeon, where the prisoner was chained in complete darkness, unable to see a single thing. First he'd hear scratching, faint at first, then more and more, until hundreds surrounded him in every direction. He could fight them off for a few hours. He could scream, struggle, slam his chains against the walls. But eventually, exhaustion wins, and the rats never tired. Days passed, sometimes weeks, depending on the crime. By the end of the medieval period, this wasn't even a punishment anymore, it was an execution. Prisoners were thrown in and simply forgotten. The river took care of the rest. Welcome to number 10. Number 9. We're still in the Tower of London, but the horror has changed shape. This time it isn't coming from the river. It's coming from a machine called the rack, arguably history's most efficient tool for making people say things they may or may not have actually done. A prisoner was laid flat on the frame, wrists tied to one end, ankles to the other, both connected to a ratchet system operated by 2 officials. With every slow, deliberate click of the ratchet, the body stretched a little further. Shoulders, hips, knees, elbows, every joint pushed beyond what it was designed to handle. The goal was confessions, names, information. But extreme pain doesn't produce truth. It produces whatever answer the person believes will make the pain stop. Innocent people confessed to crimes they never committed, named friends who had done nothing wrong, said anything to make it end. In 1447, a 25-year-old woman named Anne Askew was placed on the rack for us. Her crime was reading the Bible privately and sharing her faith with a small group of women. They wanted those women's names. She gave them nothing, not a single name, even as every joint in her body dislocated. Permanently paralyzed, she was carried on a chair to the square and burned alive. The person who turned her in was her own husband. Number 8 takes us to the open sea. Keel hauling was the most dreaded punishment a sailor could face, and when you understand what it involves, you'll understand why most prefer to take their chances with an actual ocean storm. The sailor's arms were tied to a rope that looped completely around the outside of the ship's hull. Then he was thrown overboard. The crew on deck slowly pulled, dragging him underneath the ship, across the keel, and up the other side. That's where the name comes from. The bottom of ships were covered in barnacles, sharp, serrated, absolutely relentless. Being dragged across them while drowning, while the keel snapped at your spine, meant that most sailors never made it around. Those who survived faced infection, permanent scarring, or simply going around again. Number 7 is where death becomes the guaranteed outcome. The only variable left is the method. Crushing by elephants was used across history by the Romans, Carthaginians, and Southeast Asian rulers, but its most recent documented use was in India during the 19th century, less than 200 years ago. Your great-great-grandmother could have witnessed one of these. What crime earned you this fate? Failing to pay taxes was apparently good enough. Theft worked too, being an enemy soldier, the usual. But the most disturbing case in history? The 4th Mughal emperor once ordered mass execution in a single day, not because justice demanded it, because he was bored. 3 methods. Method 1, head on a pedestal, one precise stomp. Quick, relatively speaking. Method 2, lying flat as the elephant walked over, sometimes requiring several U-turns for a second or third pass. Method 3, reserved for rulers who wanted a show limb by a specially trained elephant. The emperor preferred method 3. There was always a trained handler riding on top, a deliberate show of royal power. The message to the crowd was simple. We can control the mightiest animal on earth. What chance do you have against us? Number 7. Number 6. Impalement. Used most recently in 17th century Egypt for highway robbers, grave thieves, and rebels. I'll describe this as factually as this video allows. A long wooden stake, greased, sharpened, roughly the width of a man's forearm, was carefully driven through the condemned person using a mallet, guided to avoid vital organs, keeping them alive. Once the stake emerged from the shoulder, neck, or mouth, it was planted into the ground beside a busy road, a public monument to what happens when you break the law, left there all day for everyone passing through to see. A very clear message. But there was a second version. In the second version, a small ledge built into the stake prevented the person from sliding down too far, just deep enough to hold them in place, but not deep enough to cause immediate death. They would then be placed on a busy road, alive, conscious, begging anyone who walked past for help, for hours, until they couldn't anymore. Number 6. Top 5. Number 5 is a Roman invention, pona cullell, Latin for penalty of the sack, reserved exclusively for one specific crime, murdering a member of your own family. Ancient Rome considered this so uniquely terrible that ordinary punishments were deemed completely insufficient. The condemned was placed inside a thick leather bag. But before it was sealed, I need you to really hear this. They also added a dog, a rooster, a viper snake, and a monkey, all inside the same bag. I genuinely don't know what those animals did to deserve this. But at least the murderer didn't die alone. The bag was sewn shut and thrown into the ocean. I'll leave what happened inside to your imagination. Later, the punishment was updated. The condemned was given a choice between the leather sack and the Colosseum, where they'd be mauled to death in front of thousands, including everyone they'd ever known. At least they had a choice. Number 5. Number 4. Rats. Again. The first method dates to 1568 during the 80 Years' War, used by Dutch commander Diederik Sonoy. He would take a clay bowl, place a live rat inside, flip it face down onto the prisoner, then heat the outside of the bowl with a torch. The rat, panicking from the rising heat with absolutely no escape, would do exactly what panicking rats do. Dig, claw, burrow through whatever surface was in its way. Once inside, the rat would keep tearing forward, desperately searching for an exit. The rat eventually found one. The prisoner was not so fortunate. Simple scoreboard rat survived. Prisoner did not. But method 2 is significantly worse. Under Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet, who held power from 1976 to 1983, a classified interrogation method called the rectoscope was used. A tube, a rat, inserted. Questions were expected to be answered while this was happening. Nobody knows exactly how many people this was used on. Thousands went missing under Pinochet's rule. Many were never found. This one doesn't have a punchline. Number 3. Top 3. Gibbeting was used in Afghanistan, colonial America, and most enthusiastically in England. The last documented case was photographed and published in National Geographic in 1921. In England, the Murder Act of 1752 made it law. All convicted murderers must face public dissection or gibbering. Over 134 confirmed individuals met this fate. The cage was custom made for each person, shaped exactly to their body's dimensions, so tightly fitted they couldn't move a single in any direction. Arms locked at the sides, legs straight, head fixed. This cage, with the person still alive inside, was then hung 30 feet above a public road or water source, because everyone who came to collect water had to walk directly beneath it, every single day. The punishment didn't end when the person died. The body was left inside to rot for years. Locals documented a smell so thick they couldn't sleep at night. Some cages went uncleaned for over 20 years. As it turns out, having a government official remember to clean out a human cage is a fairly high bar. Number 3. Number 2. If you've made it this far without running away, I respect you. Scaphism was used by the ancient Persian Empire as a punishment reserved for convicted murderers. Unlike everything else on this list, it was not designed to end quickly. It was designed to last as long as humanly possible. The condemned was tied down inside a flat boat, arms and legs hanging through 4 holes into the water below. Then force-fed enormous amounts of milk and honey until their stomach was visibly swollen. Then that same mixture was poured over every inch of the exposed skin, face, arms, legs, everything, and the boat was pushed out to the center of the lake. The reason for the milk and honey? That combination causes violent diarrhea, and the smell of that, mixed with the honey coating every surface, acts as a biological beacon for every living creature near the water. Flies, wasps, bees, rodents. They arrived at night, all of them, every night. And every morning, another enormous meal, another full coating, daily. Because the entire point was to keep the person alive for as long as possible. A historian named Joannes Sonaras wrote that it was among the most horrid punishments ever recorded, because of how long it lasted and how it seemed to have no end. The man in his account survived for 17 days. By the final days, his face was completely covered in wasps, while he was still breathing. Number 1. The oubliette. Oubliette comes from the French word oublier. It means to forget. Just 2 words, and they are the entire punishment. An oubliette was a small underground cell, accessed only through a trapdoor above. Some were so small the prisoner couldn't stand up, couldn't sit down, couldn't lie flat, frozen in an impossible crouch in total darkness. The Tower of London had one called Little Ease. Warwick Castle had one deep underground. The prisoner was thrown in, the door closed above them, and no one would come. And you were never alone. Because most of the time when a prisoner was thrown in, the previous prisoner was still there, in the dark, with them. Leap Castle in Ireland was renovated in 1900 when a worker found a hidden shaft behind a chapel wall and needed multiple cart loads to remove all the skeletal remains discovered inside. Some prisoners were kept alive for years, sometimes decades, fed barely enough to survive, not enough to feel like living. And some oubliettes were placed deliberately at ground level, so prisoners could hear everything happening above them. Laughter, children playing, horses, music, life going on without them, while they sat below it, completely and permanently forgotten. For many historians, it's not the physical conditions that make the oubliette the most terrifying punishment on this list. It's the silence, the knowing, the waiting, in the dark, with nothing coming. That is what oubliette means, to forget. History is filled with reminders of how far civilization has traveled, and how necessary that journey was. Many of these punishments are now relics, locked behind museum glass, where they belong. Studying them helps us understand the value of what we've built and the importance of never going back. So, which punishment shocked you the most? I want to know. Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into the parts of history, the textbooks, I will go for you. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss one. I'll see you in the next one.